Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Bristol Town Council meeting of November 8th. If you could all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. We're going to start this evening's meeting with a presentation from Betty Brito on behalf of Rogers Free Library. Welcome, Betty.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Betty Brito, 161 Papasquash Road. I just want to begin by thank you for allocating time on this evening's agenda for an update on the Rogers Free Library strategic planning status.
It's our pleasure.
As you're all aware, the Rogers Free Library has been a part of the Bristol community since its original opening in 1877, and next October we will celebrate 10 years in the renovated building. Wow. Very hard to believe. In thinking about the future of the library, the trustees, with financial support from the Friends of the library, embarked on a strategic planning process about a year ago. This was accomplished with the assistance of a consultant, a steering committee, a community advisory committee, and the overwhelming response and engagement of the Bristol community. On behalf of the trustees, I publicly want to thank the Friends for funding this endeavor. The 102 citizens who participated in meetings, focus groups, and interviews, the 616 people who responded to our needs assessment survey, and the library directors and staff for their collective voices and their energy around this endeavor. From all of the data that we gathered, which included information from the Bristol Comprehensive Plan and from the Office of Information Services, State of Rhode Island, the trustees developed 4 goals going forward in this plan. Each goal is supported by objectives, and each objective is further supported by action steps. Our strategic plan itself is 30 pages long. Our implementation plan is 28 pages long. And the trustees, directors, and staff have already begun the work. Our goals are the following, and I believe you received these prior to the meeting. Goal 1, to support Bristol as a unique community of learners, readers, creators, and sharers through enhanced programs and services. 2, to make the public our partner for advocacy, volunteerism, and education about the library's importance to the community and the many opportunities therein. 3, to align the space use with community needs. And 4, to establish and maintain excellence in the governance and management of Rogers Free Library. I come before you this evening specifically to highlight the number 1 request we heard through community surveys, and that was Sunday afternoon hours. In response, the Friends of the Rogers Free Library again stepped up and have agreed to provide funding for Sunday openings this coming March, April, and May. The library will be open between 1 and 5, and once a month we will support the openings with a special program. This 3-month period of Sunday openings will be considered a pilot program. It will be important for the community to support Sunday hours so that we have data to use in future planning. If successful, eventually we will request that Sunday hours become part of the town-supported library budget. Other highlights of the findings included tremendous positive response to our children's programming, to the availability of meeting room space for community use, and actually requests were made for more of both of those, and the need to continue to create partnerships within the community. All of these 3 highlights are addressed by objectives under goals 1, 2, and 3. The complete document is online at the Rogers Free Library website, www.rogersfreelibrary.org, and we encourage everyone to visit our site and read about the work. More importantly, we look forward to involving the community in the library. It's the center of our community. It's alive and well and evolving and doing lots of wonderful things. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you all might have.
Actually, I wanted to add just a couple of things. I know that
Okay.
Steve Cornwall is here, and Joan Prescott, obviously the director. Steve
is a trustee.
Trustee, and also on the steering committee. I have cheat notes here. That's why I know that. So,
Indeed.
the library is doing a wonderful job. I know that my son and daughter went through story hour with Miss Molly and Miss Emily, and their experience there. That's set them to enjoy books, and I think that's so important. And it starts at a young age, and it goes to, well, I enjoy books.
Right.
So
Good.
yes, colleagues.
Excellent.
I just had a question, and you talked about technology in regards to that's sort of the future.
Absolutely.
Where do you see it going from here as far as your current equipment and upgrading?
Obviously, we need more. I think primarily we need more commitment to tech personnel. So, right now, a number of the people at the library, full-time people, are wearing more than one hat. And when it comes to technology, we really need a full-time, dedicated staff person. And we have a full-time staff person who's doing a great job, but periodically she gets pulled to do other things. So we need a commitment to that. And also, the state is helpful with funding for upgrades to technology, but another thing that the Friends frequently do is, we're looking at loaning equipment to people who don't have it. I think we sometimes assume that everybody in Bristol has a computer or a laptop or a device that can read email, and that just is not the case. And another issue is Wi-Fi, is access to Wi-Fi. I think our director, Joan Prescott, can tell you how many people sit outside the library and get the Wi-Fi in the parking lot. So if they could do that in their homes, and that's something also that we're looking into, is loaning hotspots. So
Fantastic.
there are ways to do it, and we just need to investigate those.
Thank you.
Mary?
One is, I could look it up, I just don't recall the company, and I don't know if it's limited to just certain cities, but there is, for low-income people, like very low-cost internet access. I don't know if that is divided up by, as I said, just by cities, because I've always seen it in relation to work. Mm-hmm. But that might be something, if I can find, I feel like I just came across it again today, so if I can find it, I could just forward that to you. It may be in the commissioner's memo, his education memo,
Okay.
maybe in something like that. And the other thing is, just I was curious, and I know this is probably a big project, but like the 3D printers, like the Quinnipiac Island libraries, but I know that was part of a bigger initiative with the schools and so forth down
Right.
there. And, it can be costly, but have you thought about that with your STEM?
We have. We actually, I think it was
Maybe you
over a
have one
year
already.
ago. No, we don't have one, and that was a conscious decision
Right.
not to do that at this point.
Yeah.
We did do the research. We did have papers that were, research-based from around the country about 3D printing. We have a really solid network in the state where Joan can post a question and other librarians will feed into the answer. It requires a lot of oversight. 3D printers,
Temperamental.
well, not just that. I mean, you want to be sure you know what people are printing, especially kids. And they're hot. I mean, you really have to be careful of who gets close to them. So you need a lot of supervision. And right now we're operating, our staff is operating on a tight frame in terms of the number of work hours that we have to allocate. So that was a conscious decision not to engage in that at this point.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I believe in Portsmouth, the librarian does it. Like, they don't let the kids do it,
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Going back to the last presentation to this council, when we talked about staffing needs, the need of the library and its future, I'm glad you're in front of us because you did state that even after that presentation, you will be coming up with a strategic plan on the importance not only of your staffing, but the need of the library and the future needs in the community. And just looking at the data that was presented and looked at by the advisory committee, the steering committee, and the board, I must say to our community, looking at every member of those three slates, everyone has an input in this community and a background, so it's very diverse on the perspective that they brought to this strategic plan. along with everyone who got involved from the community. Our library, like you stated, was renovated. It's enlarged, meeting the needs of rentals, such as Councilwoman Perella and my colleagues stated, whether it be 3D printing. But all the new venues that is created and looked at by the board is going to be needed for our library to be that hub downtown Bristol and a centerpiece, and to expand on that. And you look at, I see Councilman Herreshoff, his Herreshoff room where people meet, we all meet in that room, but it's a sizable room, but sometimes it's not sizable enough. And I'm just wondering, maybe we can be creative with a redesign within the confines of our library in a more open environment when you do rentals or bring community meetings there more on a contemporary basis. Maybe make the Herreshoff room serve as another purpose and expand the library in another section without, impeding on other people that need quietness for gatherings and more cosmopolitan, like in the urban cities. But as far as the hours on Sunday, I commend you for that, looking at the August-September meetings. It is a pilot, so maybe you want to start off slow, and then I know your financial restraints of staffing, and also staffing that we discussed the last presentation and the amount of employees. And Councilwoman Perella made a point, along with Director Prescott, is, the education of librarians. And I have a sentence of, the classification of a librarian depends on the kind of library which they are employed. And we want the state-of-the-art library here in Bristol, and we want that staffing to be met, and we're very proud of the staffing now, but maybe we could get creative of more full-time employees with more demands, and then take those funds and maybe less of part-time employees, because a lot of them have master's degrees and whatnot. So these are all things I know you're looking at, so I commend you. I'm excited that we're going forward here as a community and really looking at our library and the services that it provides for our community, because like you said, not everyone has an internet, but even just all the programs that you're offering to our community, it's a great asset, and we just got to expand on it. Thank you.
Thank you. And just so that everyone knows, the programs at the library are free. I mean, that we really live out our name. And so I think that's one of the huge benefits to the town, to the people in the town of Bristol. And we just concluded a workshop on website development, and people came from across the state to participate in this. So we are getting some really unusual, creative, out-of-the-box thinking, and offering programs to people that they couldn't. You would not normally think this is going to take place in a library. So it's well beyond. It's literacy, but it's literacy broadly defined.
Thank you.
So, my pleasure. Thank you.
May I?
Andy.
Hi.
Sure.
Ms. Brittle, thank you very much for everything that you do at the library and the
Thanks.
community. Thank you. So I echo a lot of things that my colleagues have said. I'm wondering if you could, if it's too soon to quantify, what additional support that the library may need looking forward to the next budget season, not just next year, but for the next 3 years. I think it's important for us to know early what support is needed so that we can plan and prioritize accordingly, not just for next year, but for the next 3 years, as we continue to make additional investments throughout the community. So I'm wondering if you're at the point you can just sort of lob some numbers out there so we can consider them.
I can speak to the Sunday hours. That's probably the best I can do. Because of state requirements for staffing libraries, we have to have a certain number of personnel on duty the minute the door opens. So we've priced out our Sunday openings at about $1,000 a week. So if we're open, it just depends on how many Sundays we're open. Right now we're planning on opening every Sunday in March, April. It's a total of 11. We're not going to open on a Sunday that precedes a holiday, a Monday holiday kind of thing. So we're estimating that just the cost of Sunday openings for the 3 months that the Friends are picking up the tab for, it's going to be between $12,000 and $15,000. And some of that will be allocated to program, but most of it is allocated to staff. We chose not to try to take staff from their regular schedules or close down for an afternoon during the week. It's just too confusing for people. We think that would undermine the flow that we have going on right now. So what we have done is, what the director has done is to invite the staff to volunteer to work. I mean, they're getting paid because it's a Sunday, so it's actually time and a half. But it's another opportunity for our staff to enhance their salaries. So I can tell you that's approximately all that I know in terms of going forward. We're just getting started. Our first steps in the strategic plan were to develop a new mission statement. We're reviewing our bylaws, and from there we're moving into like 5 or 6 different directions. So
Good.
we'll be sure you have the figures well in advance.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Clerk.
The first item on this evening's agenda, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second, just for the record, LL2, the DPW director just wants to make it known that he will refer back to the council on that agenda item if there's any deterrence of his oversight on that curb cut. So,
There's a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is submission of minutes of previous meetings, items A, 1, 2, and 3.
Motion to approve previous minutes.
Second,
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is an advertised public hearing. This is for consideration of Ordinance 2017-16. This is an amendment to the zoning code to allow for non-conforming areas by public water and sewer. This would also be the second reading for adoption. It is an advertised public hearing.
So this is a public hearing, so we're going to open up the public hearing. I'm going to ask, is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I move to make a motion to adopt for second reading the Chapter 28 zoning article, nonconformance, Section 28-221 of the land nonconformant by area per code and ordinances and the state laws.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. I promised that this council would be a little bit clearer. These things are clear and advertised quite well by the clerk, but sometimes they're not as clear if you're not following along with this. What this ordinance does is allow for the zoning board to consider, this is not an automatic approval, but allows to consider a home to be built on a buildable lot that has just sewer and not water. That doesn't mean it will happen. It just means that it gives the opportunity to the landowner and the zoning board to have a discussion about it. If the zoning board feels it's appropriate, they can approve it. If they feel it is not appropriate, then obviously they can deny it. So that's what this is. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item is also a public hearing. This is the intoxicating beverage license renewals for 2017-2018. You have some recommendations provided by the town administrator, fire chief, and chief of police all to approve. And there's also a late item that was provided by a supplier to two of the licensees that would like the council to consider the fact that they have funds in arrears.
So this is an advertised public hearing, so I'm going to open up the public hearing. Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Is there anyone to speak against? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. So what is this council's plan? Actually, that late item, I'm just going to notate that, make this. Mrs. Solicitor, would there be, because this is one specific license, would it make most sense to approve? I'm sorry, I apologize, there are two. Would it make the most sense to take those out and approve the rest and then have a certain, if this council is willing and wanting?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So per the late item, I make a motion that we grant all the applicants their intoxicated beverage license renewals. As the two mentioned, per the late item B2C, that I believe in the past, Mrs. Solicitor, that we make it contingent upon the payment in lieu of their renewal to make call with the clerk, and with those findings, they would be approved at that time by this motion.
Yes.
Yeah, the term that we've used is satisfaction of debts. Doesn't necessarily require payment. It means that they have to resolve the matter that they have with the supplier.
Right.
So
So you
moved.
have to get, what do you get, like a letter releasing them from that, noting
Exactly.
that this has been
Yeah,
done?
so most of the time, you see those before the meeting happens.
Yes.
Just because this one came in late.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
And Mr. Clerk, that doesn't require them to come back in front of us. That happens with
Absolutely.
your satisfaction at that
As
point.
long as the
Perfect.
supplier knows that he has to let us know when that is satisfied, then we take, we add that to the file and we issue once that's satisfied.
Perfect. Is there any other conversation or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the item E1. I'm sorry, we already did that one. The next is item E2, Sunday sales license renewals for 2016-2017. This is for the package stores. You have recommendations provided by the fire chief, chief of police, and town administrator, all to approve.
Motion to approve the Sunday sales license renewals 2016-2017 as stated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Similarly, you have item E3. This is for the vittling license renewals. You have recommendations provided by the town administrator, the fire chief, the chief of police, the Department of Water Pollution Control, all to approve, I believe.
Upon all those recommendations, I make a motion to approve the victim license renewals as presented, except by the recommendation of the water pollution control satisfaction of the withhold of the yellow cards until payment is done upon all governing laws and ordinances.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. The next item is item... Did we miss 4? Yes, we did. So we have E5, and this is amusement device license renewals 2017-2018, recommendations provided by the town administrator, fire chief, and chief of police, all to approve.
Motion to approve amusement device licenses as stated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And finally, the holiday sales licenses for the same time period with a similar set of recommendations. That's item E6.
Per the recommendations, make a motion to approve the holiday sales license renewals 2017-2018.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, is the first item under petitions. This is the petition of Bodacious of 244 Wood Street requesting an accessible parking space in front of his residence. This is the second reading for adoption.
Motion to approve the second reading for adoption.
I'll second with discussion from our Director of Public Works. I know there's a place card for this, but he just made caution of the off-street parking. Just want my colleagues to know, but is Mr. Dias here? It's just wondering the reasoning. Maybe it's, I would imagine, easier for accessibility, I would imagine, by his request, so.
So, Councilman Stewart, if you could share that with the public of what the concern was, an objection.
The concern by the director is, I guess there was ample parking in the driveway. There are 3 off-street parking spaces in front of this resident. By granting the handicap on the street versus in the driveway, it's just going to bring it down to 2 off-street parking. Versus a lot of times, like I said, though, it could be a case of accessibility, which we have to respect. So that's why I am in support of this. But I just wanted to clarify that for any abutters or any people concerned with the parking, which we all have concerns of parking here in Bristol, just to convey that as a public notice. That's all.
Thank you. Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is item F2. This is the petition of Melissa Bierling, a 62 Oliver Street, similarly requesting on the other side, requesting removal of an accessible parking space in the vicinity of her residence. Apparently is no longer needed. You have recommendations provided by the Town Administrator, Chief of Police, and Director of Public Works, all to approve.
Like you said, we lose one and we add one, so that's good.
Net zero.
Balance cancels each other.
So a motion to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I like to say this every time, that thank you for bringing this to our attention. When it's necessary, as you can see, we will approve them. And when they're no longer necessary, we very much appreciate you bringing this to our attention so we can remove them to open up that parking space. Thank you.
The next item is item F3. This is the petition of Michelle Martens on behalf of the Bristol Warren Education Foundation, requests Council's continuing support of the annual Bodacious Bee event, which will be held on March 10th.
Hi, Michelle. Michelle's going to come up and share some quick information that...
Hi, Michelle Martens. I'm a board member of the Bristol Warren Ed Foundation.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You're usually over there. But
I usually
now you're
am.
on this side right
Different
now.
hat tonight.
Yes, exactly.
So we're once again asking the town of Bristol for their support for the Bodacious Bee. It's the 10th annual Bodacious Bee this year. Be seen. It's going to be a masquerade March 10th, 2018 at Rhode Williams University. And we're really excited about it. We still have Hope in Maine helping with the food. We have a new caterer, Walt Palm. We're going to try to change it up a little bit this year. We're super excited. It's going to be a masquerade. And in the past, the town has supported the event with a silver sponsorship. So we're hoping that you will be able to do that again once
Remind
again
us,
this
that's
year.
$1,000
Yes.
sponsorship?
Yes. I just wanted to add that last year the Bee grossed over $65,000, and we were able to grant $61,000 in grants to the Bristol Warren Regional School System, and we were able to grant multiple grants to each school. So every year it gets better. So we appreciate the continued support of the community.
Michelle, do you happen to know like a success story from one of those grants that were awarded?
So next week, the 7th grade, the entire 7th grade is going to Nature's Classroom. So we're able to fund $10,000 towards that program. They go for a whole week. It's outdoor adventure for learning hands-on that the schools participated for years and years, but over the last few years with Bristol Warren Education Foundation's help, the entire 7th grade is able to go, where in the past it used to just be the looping team that could participate. So we also have an after-school Spanish program that happens at Rockwell. Healthy Huskies is another program, beginners band at KMS. Each school, as long as it's within the reasonable grant requirements, we're able to grant that money because of the Bodacious Bee and our food truck 5K. So the community at large really supports Bristol Warren Ed Foundation, and we appreciate that.
Michelle, if somebody wanted to buy tickets, how would they do that?
They can go to the Bristol Warren Ed Foundation website, or we'll have more information when it gets closer. We have a bidding for goods site that allows credit card purchases.
Spectacular.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we double down on the success of the Bodacious Bee and become a gold sponsor for $2,000.
Julie, that would come on a contingency? Okay.
You crazy guy, you. So that means you're spelling this year, if in fact this...
Absolutely.
And it does require that you go through all the rounds. It's typically, the council gets through about a round and a half or so. The half a round is because somebody sponsors us to continue.
But you always look really good, and usually you're in costume. It's great. We appreciate your support.
Boy, is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion?
I don't have a discussion on that. I just want to say it's like congratulations on 10 years. And I know you have other fundraiser, but I don't know, 65,000 gross and you gave out 61,000. I'm sure you brought other money in from other sources, but it seems like it says a lot about, I think, the donations for the events.
It is. And last year we had, I don't know if you remember, but it was really cold out, and we had a really hard time, with selling tickets that, getting closer to the event with the weather, but we still did really well, and we still filled the room, and we appreciate everybody's support.
Yeah.
We even have Lou as the pronouncer.
I know, and he just
does a good job.
And
he doesn't even give us easy words. He doesn't even give us easy words. He still gives us hard words.
We've improved in our spelling.
No special treatment.
No special treatment.
We want like cat, something like that. We'd be like, is it K or is it
They don't
K?
even tell me the words, thank goodness. I wouldn't be able to spell, so just for the record.
So there's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No, just want to say it's a great event. You guys do a wonderful job. It's well organized and it's a lot of fun. And I'm
Thank you.
super impressed that you guys have, $120,000 you've given back to teachers. And I was reading on the back to teachers and staff to enhance student educational experiences. Pretty impressive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, also, it's a reinvestment. That's how I look at it, as a partnership from us sitting here and along with your organization and the great things you do, going back into the educational purposes of our Bristol Warren Regional School District.
Thank you. Yeah, the mission is to promote student excellence, so we appreciate all the help.
It's impressive, and it was already said, but the impressive how much local businesses and area businesses are willing to give, whether it's one that comes to mind because I bid on one of them was the Sunshine Oil, and they do that every year, but they're an example of many businesses that give back. Jaffe Orthodontics, right?
Right, he's the signature sponsor and has been.
And that's just, it's impressive. It's wonderful. If you've never been to the Bee, it's a good time. The food is wonderful, but honestly, the people are nicer. So go for the people and eat the food and maybe have a drink or two.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Michelle's famous concoction of different drinks are actually very good.
Thank
But
you.
we go for the spelling, right?
And I don't even drink that much, but I do like those. But
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Mr. Clerk.
Helps the spelling.
The next item is item G1. This is the first part of your
I
public
don't know about that. But.
service appointment section. You have two new applicants.
Excellent.
For Historic District Commission.
Mr. Clerk, if we could just make appointments, schedule a motion for an interview for the two interested parties.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Next is item H1, first item under old business from the Director of Community Development regarding review of parking requirements in manufacturing zones. This is was referred for recommendations on August 23rd.
Diane.
So the council referred a request to the Planning Board and Zoning Board to look at the parking requirements for manufacturing zones. And each of the boards did. You have the Zoning Board's review, which is attached to my memo. And the Planning Board also looked at it on October 12th. I think what came out of it was interesting because both boards independently had the same thought, which was to not revise the parking requirements, but to keep in place the flexibility that is in the ordinance now for allowing industrial businesses that might have few employees the ability to only pave and stripe for parking what they need for their employees, but to show on the site plan during the process the amount of parking required by the zoning. So what it does is it gives the board flexibility so that they can allow the applicant to only pave and stripe what they really need, but but demonstrate that if the building is sold, or if the building changes a use to become something with more demand and more need for parking, there is the space on the site for that parking to be built in the future. And they felt that it was working well. They've applied it before many times, and the zoning board concurred. And the zoning board also found that they haven't seen in recent past a lot of requests for variances for the parking requirements because the planning board has that flexibility in the manufacturing zone. So their recommendation was to just leave it as is and, go from there.
Was there any discussion, like you said, things can change and whatnot for any applicant going forward, with the impervious, water table, or when the planning board does a whole site visit and whatnot, and dealing with the DM in our workshops, just trying to put this out there that, we also have to be considerate of the water runoff at the end of the day with these future projects. We try to be proactive, but I think we have to be more stricter because of the guidelines that we keep discussing in those workshops with stormwater mitigation. So in a way, I think we have to be mindful of that. That's all.
I agree.
So I think the input from the planning board and zoning board is valuable, but I don't think we should stop here. They offer flexibility, but what a business needs is not only flexibility but predictability. And to go in front of a board and ask for a variance prolongs the process and adds a level of uncertainty to the success of the application. So the fact that businesses aren't asking for variances, I don't think is a measure of the need to address the parking problems for commercial developments within the town. There's clear environmental impacts to reducing the parking requirements by reducing the impervious surface required. There's significant cost impacts to the businesses to satisfy even the flexible requirements to not stripe but pave areas, and the obligation to satisfy the runoff and drainage, as my colleague referred to, of the development because of the what I think is onerous parking requirements for commercial and manufacturing spaces. So, I think we need to look beyond the recommendations of our planning and zoning boards and look at what other communities are doing to address what I think is an opportunity, not just an inconvenience and a problem, but an opportunity to show that we have a culture of trying to advance the improvement of underutilized property within our community to see that they're developed in a competitive manner and developed in a manner which will create jobs for many of those that live within our community. So, I'd like to ask that we don't stop here in reviewing modification to our parking requirements, that we look to what other communities have done and look seriously at what the impacts are of not changing this requirement on both the environment and our local economy here.
So just to respond to that, I wanted to just clarify, there's two pieces to the flexibility of the ordinance provision. And one is that businesses don't have to pave if they can demonstrate that they don't need the parking in the current proposal for the number of employees that they have. And then the second part is a lot of the businesses still need to pave areas for maneuverability. Some of the bigger boat builders need that space for storage or for just maneuvering their boats and their products out of their buildings and out into the transportation to the water. So if they need to pave it for loading and unloading or maneuverability, they don't need to stripe it for parking, which would then be sort of a competing mission because they wouldn't have the space to turn the boat if they've got cars parked there. So it could actually grant relief from paving as well as striping. I just wanted to clarify that. And I think the other thing to note is that we did quite a bit of research to prepare for presenting to the Planning Board and Zoning Board because we wanted to find something that was innovative that we could model. We love to do that if it will work. What we found was that most of the other towns have requirements similar to the Bristol's, and where they allow you to base your parking requirements on employees, they require a very detailed business plan and expectation of employment and a lot of verification for the employees because they're really making sure that the parking is there for all the people who work there. And Bristol, the planning board in Bristol has been really, I think, good to work with the businesses. They basically have to say, I have this number of employees, and the board says, okay, if that's how many you have, fine. So I felt kind of comfortable that we were pretty much there, and we had looked at, also we had the consulting engineers for us look at the ITE, which is the International Traffic Engineering books and models that they used for best practices. We were pretty much in line with that, and so I did feel like we were in a good place. And then with the flexibility that's in the ordinance now, that the boards recognized, I did kind of feel that we were in a good place. And if there's a specific site or a specific place that you know of that we can look at again and review again, I'd be happy to do that. We are going to be looking at a comprehensive update to the zoning ordinance, so we'll be looking at all these chapters in more detail as well. That's all.
I spoke with Diane and Ed in regards to this and looking at the ordinance, the way it's written right now. Actually, I'm just going to back up for a second. The ordinance, the way it's written right now, is the purpose behind it is to make sure that there's parking for businesses. Not only today, but our planning board is literally supposed to do that, plan for the future. I do believe that the way it's written, or at least it presents, it comes across as strict. And I think, and as I suggested to you, it should be worded in a way that suggests flexibility and that suggests that we don't, the needs of the employee numbers are not that of what it was in the past. You don't need the amount of people, which is fortunate and unfortunate all at the same time, but it is what it is. So I would like to see this written in a way that is more, that gives the impression, because it's the reality, that we're open for business and that we do want to talk to you. But if you leave tomorrow and someone else comes in and wants to expand, that there was thought involved with that. So we don't limit what could go in there afterwards. But to be very clear, I think that it should be written in a way that a business, whether you're a current business looking to expand or a new one coming in, knows that we want to talk about this. We are open to the conversation, and we're willing to be flexible on this. I think it should say that. Councilman Herreshoff, or ex-Councilman Herreshoff, I guess, was here, and he was a big fan of putting in, when we were doing ordinances, of talking about what its purpose was. And I agree with that thought process, to say this is what we're trying to accomplish behind this. So. And
I think to your point, I agree, and I think what we found when we did this exercise in reviewing was that it isn't really intuitive. And as we're doing more and more things online and on the internet, we want to be able to direct people to the provisions in a way that they understand it and they don't have to look into subsection B, page 10, under heading 2, and then get confused. So that did become apparent to us, and I think that may help too with just being more business friendly. Which leads me to that other point, is that if you are a business in town and you're considering expansion, or you're a new business considering coming into Bristol, please don't waste your time reading our ordinances. Go right to Diane Williamson and Ed Tanner, and it's like Google. So they will tell you what you need to know, what you don't need to worry about, and help you through the process. I've joked around a couple times that there should be a picture of both of them with the waving arm on our website saying, thinking about doing something, call me. I'm joking, and I'm also very serious, is that if you're considering something like this, the ordinances are well written. We take a lot of time, as you've heard, on just a couple that we've talked about this evening, but they're not necessarily intuitive. But Diane and Ed's job, and they do it well, is to help businesses through those steps and bring to this council's attention, if we are not seeing it, issues that we need to adjust, amend, abolish, whatever the case may be. So what's this council's pleasure on next step?
I think after hearing Diane's comments and the chairman's, I think the next logical step is to really put a bookmark and reminder on this topic and really have another good look at it during the period of time at which we look at the zoning revision and inform the committee as well as the subcommittee looking at this ordinance in particular that the council has looked at this as a potential area that we can improve the clarity of the language and the intent at which the planning board or zoning board, reviews these applications and hope to see some positive changes to nudge it forward as far as addressing what I think sometimes are overdone parking requirements.
So would a receive and file be appropriate at this point, or would you?
Yes.
Second.
Is there any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Also, from the Community Development Director, this regards the Solarized Bristol Fall 2017 program. This was referred for additional information at the last meeting.
I had asked Diane that we had this on this agenda so you could remind the residents of Bristol and business owners of Bristol what opportunities are out there.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm really happy to report that we are a Solarized Community Fall 2017 program, and we had the kickoff October 26th. The selected vendor is Sunwatt, Sunwatt. They have been at the Mountain Hope Farmers Market, so some folks in Bristol may be already familiar with them. The program is a community effort to educate and inform people on solar energy options for their homes and businesses. And this vendor, Sunwatt, I was really excited. We met with them again this week. They're really going to make a big push to the business community and using the CPACE program as a way to kind of introduce this to the businesses. So it's group purchasing, the power of group purchasing. The more people who sign on and the more solar is generated, the lower the price drops. There's 3 tiers, and I've been told that Tier 1 is already very, very competitive in regard to the state average. It's a pretty good price already, and then as more people sign up, the price will drop. We're going to have a lot of workshops. We're going to have some different outreach. They'll be probably at the different events that we've got coming up to table and share with people information. And it's really, really great. The vendor will come to your house, go over the different options with you. You decide if you want to participate or not. We hope you do, because it's good for everybody. But it's totally a voluntary program. And the Conservation Commission is also helping with some of that outreach, so it's kind of nice that they've gotten involved too.
So, Diane, the more people sign up, the less expensive it is to do the install?
Yes.
Or is that pretty much what it is?
Yes, so there's 3 tiers, and they've priced it with a discount based on the more people who sign up for the panels and the installation.
So the first shot a resident or business owner, maybe it's the same person, I guess, right, would have to take advantage of this. Where is this going to be out right now? Is it out someplace right now?
It is out. It is actually on the town's website.
Perfect.
Put the link up there today. There's also a state website called Solarized Bristol. And we will be having a lot of social media push from the different people who are helping us with marketing. We'll have different events. I think the farmers market is probably the most consistent place that people want to go and meet the vendor. But definitely online, you can go to the website and click a button and put your information, and they'll go take it from there.
That's
So
a great way to save some green.
Save some green for some green, yeah.
Both sides.
Yes.
And Diane, if they put a solar panel up on their house, it still works the same way. They still pay National Grid, but because they're getting solar, they'll get a credit right in their bill.
Right.
So it's a win-win.
It is a
on that
win-win,
sort of thing.
yes. And there are some state incentives, too, that they can explain better when they meet with the folks about what's available through the state to help fund it.
And just remind me from last year, historic areas
Yes.
of town, how does that work? I think.
So the Historic District Commission adopted a guidance document, which is actually also on the website, And there's everything you needed to know about solar in the historic district. And they've actually approved, independent of the solarized program, I believe there are 2 properties that have been approved for solar.
Thank you.
Diane, no, this is a different vendor from the last time?
It is.
Is there is there a reason? Was it better pricing, or did the other
Better
people apply,
pricing,
or-
and also they had a really good marketing campaign. We did really good in the first round, but we thought we could do better. And they had a really strong marketing campaign. They already have a presence in Bristol, like I said, being at the farmers market, and they really wanted to get the business community engaged, which also made me happy too.
So they have like comparable products, like pianos and things like that?
Yes.
They all do?
Yes, and
So-
they're all, actually, just to back up on that point, the State Office of Energy Resources is really helping us with the program, and they also have criteria for these vendors to meet. So it's kind of nice to know that the vendors have already been somewhat vetted, if you will, by the state, so.
So I am assuming that on the background information, the Solarized Rhode Island, it talked about the federal incentives, you could claim it on your 2015 tax return.
Oh, that's
still
old.
I know,
Sorry.
so that's still available? I mean, the tax credits at the federal level are still available?
I
or-
believe it is. I can find out more. I just took that off the website
Right,
for
right,
you
right.
tonight. I didn't realize it was an older document, but we'll have all the current information up there for the residents and the businesses.
So consult your tax professional. Is that,
Right.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
I think it's very important, just to reiterate, that the town website, I'm glad you picked up on that, but we got 3 pages of questions. So all the questions and all the pertinent things that you might be curious about will be on the website. If not, reach out to Diane at the Community Development Office, or go to your local library and go on the internet if you don't have it. But need be, I think the website is a good tool to answer a lot of questions that a lot of people might have. So,
That's excellent, thank you. Anything else?
motion to receive and file.
Thank you.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Diane.
The next item is item I-1, and this is from the council chairman regarding consideration of the town ordinance which establishes the Economic Development Commission, an item previously discussed. Provided is a copy of the actual portion of the town code dealing with same.
Thank you. Amy, if you could help us with this, I'm going to just kind of set this up. We had a meeting at our last meeting, we discussed at length, and then we had a workshop prior to that talking about economic development, particularly the commission. And this council decided that we wanted to, I'm going to say hit the pause button, but I'm saying it in that way because in no way did anyone here express any way, shape, or form that we wanted to take it out of possibilities. We want to have that opportunity moving forward. We have an economic development director, job position. In fact, the administrator and staff will be interviewing for that position next week, if my memory is correct with that. But could you help us with a motion that would be appropriate to, I'm going to say again, hitting the pause button here?
Sure. I don't think you should repeal the ordinance. You should leave the ordinance in place.
We agree.
The commission is currently constituted and active, so they can meet unless you direct them to take a hiatus. And I think that's what the motion should be, to suspend the commission or put it on a hiatus until such time as the new economic development coordinator is selected and town staff and the council have had an opportunity to review the work plan for that employee's position. And so,
Suspended would be an appropriate motion?
yes.
Okay. What's this council's pleasure?
Based on the consensus of the last meeting, it looks like I'd make a motion that we suspend the Economic Development Commission until further notice.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Well, I like the language that Amy provided, more than till further notice, but until we have the opportunity to, gather input from like this new person that we're hiring and to take a look at it. I mean, it means the same thing, but I like the way you phrased that better myself. But
That's fine.
You okay with amending it?
Yeah.
Perfect. Is there still a second?
yeah.
Second with the amendment.
Spectacular.
Great.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item was something brought up during the last meeting also, and this is from Councilman Sweeney regarding his request for an LED lighting for municipal purposes report.
Well, we should, the council, all my colleagues in the administration, we should be proud of where we stand on the LED lighting retrofitting. Walter, I got your report, and I was just glowing to see, no pun intended there, at the Parks and Recreation. All indoor and outdoor lightings have been converted. That's great. Rogers Free Library, all lights have been converted to LED. That's fantastic. Bristol Police Department is almost complete. Burnside Building is, Walter, complete. DPW as soon as possible. And sewer treatment plant, the audit's ongoing. So we're making a lot of progress on that front. So I appreciate all the effort, everybody involved in this too. Thank you.
This is a spectacular effort because if my memory is correct, electricity production goes 90% to light production. So 90% of the electricity made is to light up the world. So the less electricity that we use here, the less obviously that we're paying for it, but the less electricity that is produced, therefore less CO2,
Yeah.
So it's far-reaching consequences. Walter, did you want to add?
Well, my understanding that a typical light bulb, typical light bulb produces 80% heat and 20% electricity. LED, it's the opposite. 80% is electricity and 20% is heat. That's why when you hold an LED light, it's not hot. You don't get burned by it. So the production of electricity versus heat is what drives the cost of LED down at 80 to 90%.
It's fantastic.
So the value is tremendous, and converting all the municipal buildings over to LED is just very, very sound. Huge savings. And I've been told by that from the grid that Bristol is the most active, energy efficient community in the state.
Spectacular.
And it's really a partnership of all the town department heads and the town administrator. It's really phenomenal to see the unity between all the departments to get it done. We all understand the value of it and work together, to make it happen. So it's really a partnership of everybody, not just me or any one person.
Well, we thank you, and the taxpayers thank you, because you're saving big bucks. We like that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, not only that, thank you, Councilman Sweeney, for asking for the update, but more so, thank you, Walter, for your hard work, in partnership with the administration and all the departments coming together on this. And like any project here in the town of Bristol, shovel-ready projects, we have a history of that, whether it be with state or federal. And this program, when it was instituted with National Grid and the state some time ago, and we went on this quest, our Director of Recreation, first come, first serve, is the town of Bristol, like he said, was ready. And that's why we had the most incentives to coordinate with these projects to save the taxpayer even more money while we're doing these programs within all our departments. So I just want to commend you for that direction, along with all of us in the past in our workshops, to get to these accomplishments, to the end result, along with the streetlights purchase and everything, while saving green emissions for the environment and using less power management. So.
Well said,
So can I just ask you a quick question? Is there a plan to do this Byfield and Reynolds, by any chance?
That's in progress. We're Byfield, we did 2 classrooms, the exterior, but we're financing that ourselves. And as we go along, when we can finance it ourselves, that's what we're doing. Reynolds, 2 rooms in the basement. Exterior lights were ordered. So slowly we're moving along. I know the fire chief is doing his own financing also to get it done. He's found it cost effective for the headquarters, I think is done at this point, right?
Well, you can do more in your department if you can lower this cost. You can put that money towards other things, so it's definitely in everybody's interest. Do you guys happen to know where the schools stand with this? I know it's not up to us, but
Schools?
yeah, the schools.
Yeah, they are.
They're all LED. Oh, good.
I don't know if they're all finished.
But they're definitely converting, yes.
But I know a lot of them are converting,
Okay,
if
good.
not all of them.
That's good.
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
Second?
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item, Mr. Chairman and members of the Town Council, concerns the Firemen's Memorial and Welfare Committee request for permission to proceed with the purchase and erection of a firefighter statue at Firefighter Memorial Park.
Chief.
Good evening, everybody. So this simply, the park was going on about 22 years now since the park was created. It's due for some improvement, so as part of that project, the committee had approached me about a year ago, maybe a little longer than that, about their desire to put a bronze-like statue there to kind of both invite more people to visit the park and also to tell the historical story of the volunteer firefighter here in Bristol, not only those that exist today, but also the volunteers that participated in U.S. Rubber with their fire brigade, the Rhode Island Veterans Home, Herreshoff Marine Works at the time, all had these volunteer fire brigades. So to make it a historical, accurate representation of what we have in the community for so many years, also an educational tool, and also something to just beautify the park. And again, we like our parks, and they work well for us, and if we can make it a little bit more attractive for people to come in and learn a little bit about the spirit of volunteerism, particularly on the firefighter and EMS side, that's what we want to do. And this project is going to be funded essentially by donations, fundraising campaigns, and grants if we can find them. And if anyone has any questions or wants a little more information, there is some posting on the town website under the fire department. The park has its own page, and it'll direct you to my office if you're interested in donating or helping out as we move forward with the project.
A couple of people were talking to me about this, just telling me that, generally the plans a while ago. I mean, it might have been a year or so ago. Is there already a design selected, or are you still working that out?
Yeah, we're still working it out. First we wanted to come and get some public backing, make sure it was okay with everybody as we move forward. Mm-hmm. They brought in an artist known as Jeff Bodacious. He did a Vietnam veteran statue in Framingham, Massachusetts. I think that's his most recent statue. A little bit bigger than I think what we're looking at, but it's along the same lines. So we have an idea. We have a thought of what we want to do. Mm-hmm. We have a rough estimate, why we think we're going to eat a lot of macaroni and meatball suppers to make this happen. But I'm confident that we'll be able to get it done.
That's great.
Make sure you invite us. We like macaroni and meatballs.
Will do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just an idea of when I looked at this, I think it's great, Chief, well-deserved, and every year we as a community for the Firemen's Memorial Ceremony down that takes place in that park. And I know this is an additional cost, so here goes Councilman Stewart spending more money, but like you said, if it's 2 grants, and especially I would really address the Rhode Island Firefighters Association for this initiative too. We should be very proud of our volunteer fire department and go right to the state level. I think this is an initiative that they would support on a presentation to them because it's an integral part throughout all our communities to pay respects to our firefighters. But I notice every memorial ceremony we have the wrought iron placements for the wreaths, so maybe we can actually have pillars for each department next to the statues, so they're already there for the wreaths for every ceremony.
We'll look at that, but we'll need more macaroni.
Yeah, okay.
This council likes macaroni and meatballs. Please invite us to those.
Okay.
Anything else? Chief?
That's it.
Okay. Can I have a motion to receive and file? Yes, please.
Second.
Actually, I take that back.
I think we should just
I take that
approve
back,
going
yes.
forward, I think.
Yes, that we support moving forward with this initiative.
Because you're asking for, it says here, we're asking for permission to continue moving forward.
Absolutely are.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
From the fire chief is a request to schedule a workshop to review the draft proposed volunteer firefighter EMS tax incentive program ordinance, which is provided.
Chief, would you remind this council and the public about what's transpired up to this point and where we're going from here?
Sure. We had met quite a while ago regarding a tax incentive relief program for active volunteer firefighters. It had to go through the General Assembly, which it has passed through the General Assembly, and it has gone into effect through the Governor's office, which basically puts it back in our lap to look at what we want to do, craft an ordinance, and figure out how we want to move forward from there. It's been a while. Numbers need to be refined, and we need to look at different things. So my recommendation or request would be for a workshop in the future so we can look at it all again and kind of refresh our memory.
Did you have like a draft ordinance that you were thinking of moving forward?
I did, but I would certainly move
Right.
that over to the
Like-
solicitor to take a look at.
Right, so, yeah, I think that would be helpful at the meeting. I mean, I know you did originally, and any changes that you might have come across or whatever, I think that would be good that we, to react to, then rather than just brainstorm ideas.
I believe most of the language will stay the same, with the exception of the solicitor reviewing the ordinance. It's refining the financial piece of it to see where we stand today.
Yeah. Well, this is
Chief,
all
I
the
think this
stuff
is
with the
really great that
legislation.
we're taking the steps
Fine.
forward, and I think it's great we're doing
The
the
workshop,
workshop
yeah.
because it's going to be good to work with Julie to see how it all backs into, the budgeting of it, so we can make sure it's sustainable in the long term.
Thank you. We have a great volunteer department, and this is just another way to keep it going. And
Yeah.
almost 4,000 calls a year we respond to now. So
Yeah.
We agree.
Yeah.
So we need a motion to schedule a workshop.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item from the Community Development Director regarding the request of Zachary Rivers for a tax stabilization program at 549 Metacom Avenue. That is Lot 2 on Assessors Plat 108.
I know Zach is here and he's going to come up. Diane, I would like, if you would, to maybe speak before Zach and just share that you feel that this particular application has hit the requirements for the tax stabilization. And certainly I want Zach to share some more about what he's planning on, all of that. But if you could just kind of start us with, you believe it's hit those requirements, if you do, and how. And then I'd love to hear, and I know we would love to hear from you, Zach, and share the next step.
Okay, thank you. So if you recall, in 2015, the Town Council adopted a new tax stabilization ordinance, and following some of the guidance we heard from you tonight on the zoning ordinance, we streamlined it. We made it, I think, 2 pages, and it's pretty short and sweet. So the ordinance allows the council to phase in new and improved commercial and manufacturing developments, and for this particular application, I believe this meets the requirements of the ordinance, although it's totally up to you and you have your total discretion. But this is, if you know the property, right now it's a vacant restaurant building. It's been vacant for quite a while. It's almost getting, I would say, somewhat blighted.
Diane, what property? I know what it is.
Oh,
but
so
if you
this
could
is
just share with everyone.
549 Metacom Avenue. It's the old Back Road Grill. That was, I think, the most recent restaurant. Some folks might know it by.
Winging it?
Like
Yeah.
Columbus.
Okay.
Or
Thank you.
Cafe Dragon?
Cafe Dragon.
I think the Winging It place
I'm surprised
was there.
you would know that. I'm surprised that you would know
Winging It?
Cafe
I
Dragon.
feel like we're
too.
digressing.
Was Winging It after the Back Road Grill? I think it was, yeah. It was Winging It for a short while. So the property, the restaurant closed. It's been vacant for quite some time. Mr. Rivers has a proposal that's pending with the planning board right now. He received preliminary approval. He's working on his final approval and then his building permit to demolish that existing former restaurant building, construct a new car wash building and a new commercial building that will have space for, I think, 3 or 4 commercial businesses. So I believe this meets the intent and the requirements of the ordinance. I think just looking back on some of the previous ones, demolition of somewhat blighted properties and construction of new buildings, it has been similar applications in the past you've seen. The assessor did look at it. She's given you in my memo, I outlined the value that she believes this project will bring, and the phase-in would be based on the difference between the existing and the proposed. I think Mr. Rivers provided in his proposal his site plans, his narrative. We do ask for information about job creation, which he has provided, although he will be leasing the spaces. Financing, it didn't indicate that he's looking to, that this is any gap financing, although he can maybe explain more about that. And the only other thing that the ordinance requires is that the applicant be current with their property taxes, which he is. So I think it's totally up to you if you want to ask questions or get more information.
The reason why I wanted to start it that way was because I wanted to hear from you that you believed it hit those minimum requirements, and certainly Zach's going to add a little bit more flavor and personalization because of what you're doing with the property. And if you would, Zach, please welcome.
Sure.
And share some information with us.
Zach Rivers. Actually, Mrs. Williamson recapped the project briefly there. That covered most of it, but basically we're taking the existing building, which has fallen disrepair. We're demolishing the entire building. We're going to erect 2 new structures. One is a 4,500 square foot flex commercial space that has up to 4 units in it, which would be mostly small businesses in there. And then the other building is a 1,400 square foot car wash building, which is going to house a car wash business. And then we're also, on top of that, we're doing site improvements, which include new sidewalks along Metacom, landscaping, complete site drainage system, as well as other green spaces. We're also looking into solar, but we can't promise we're going to go in that direction yet either. So that's what we're looking at. We have several tenants interested at this point, and all of them will be bringing jobs to the area. However, we don't have anything concrete as we're still pending on the building permits.
So as our continuing goal here to share more information and be very clear with the public, what a tax stabilization does and doesn't do, it doesn't cost any money. It's not like the town's spending any money on this. What this does is that the property is valued at X right now. That property would continue to be taxed accordingly. The stabilization comes in, and any improvement that's done is taxed over a 10-year period. It's eased in. The benefit of that is that it helps a new business, Zach, come in and makes that transition that much easier. It brings in those new businesses. We lose nothing for taxes. We only gain. And it's a wonderful tool at our disposal, which this council worked very hard on. The Stabilization Act was about that thick before. And we've brought it down to a place where mere mortals can understand it, right?
Thank you.
And I think, well, that was the intent. We didn't want it the best kept secret. We wanted it a tool at our disposal to help someone like yourself, someone who's already a business owner in Bristol, expand that ownership, take the next step. And we were talking earlier about parking. Ordinances like this allow us the tools to help you, and all this is your hard work. This is our assistance to get you there, but this is certainly your hard work. I'd like to ask the solicitor, Amy, do you believe that do you concur with Diane that this hits the minimum requirements? I say it may do more than that, but it hits the minimum requirements? Yes. Thank you. See, that was succinct, so thank you, Amy. Colleagues?
I'm in support, and thank you for wanting to continue to do business here. We value that.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to approve the tax stabilization for 549 Metacom Ave, Plot 108, Plot 2. That's a valid motion?
It absolutely
Second.
is. Is there discussion?
I would just like to convey what my colleague said. Mr. Rivers is an existing business owner here in Bristol. Not only that, he contributes to the community time and time again with donations. His involvement is very much appreciated. And to take on this task of an empty, vacant place on such a high corridor of the Metacom overlay is welcoming. I like your plan. I like everything that's involved with it, and the criteria, like the chairman said, you meet every mark. And I went through it myself with whether it be the finance director, building inspector, community development, and it falls under the 10. That's the limit, right, Diane? As the master list.
Well, you don't currently have a limit in the ordinance. That was rescinded with the update.
Okay.
But I believe there's currently 4 on the books.
Okay.
Just for information.
Yeah.
But there is no
So if
limit.
there was a 10 limit, we are well below it.
Yes, you
Yeah.
are.
Spectacular.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I do
So-
think that's like that building it's just always amazing, like how long it's been in disrepair, and, nothing's been successful there, so, I mean, in terms of the restaurants. So it's really good to take that on, and it sounds like a great project, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, just to add to that, Mr. Rivers, good job. It's fantastic to see this development happening, and I think it should also be noted, since you're here, that you also own Judge Roy Beans, and that business itself has been a great facility for our community here, and you support our snowflake raffle as Santa Claus comes in right in front of your door there and let the lights be plugged into your building. So I think being a great member of our community and business owner is, I think, a good example that many of us look towards. So thank you, Zach.
Thank you very much.
So we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Best of luck. Thank you.
Best of luck.
Thank you very much, Council.
Thank you.
Now, hopefully that's through
The next two items are requests for executive session, which the council will take up at the conclusion of the public agenda. The next item is item J1 from the treasurer regarding account reappropriations.
Hi, Julie.
Hello. So every year we see these couple of accounts where there's been some funds obligated before year end, and we ask that those balances be carried forward into the next year. Thought we might get away without any carry forwards this year, but there were two that popped out at me. So I'm requesting carry forward for two accounts. One is the Community Development Department tree planting, which contract was in place in April, but there was some delays due to weather. So all of the work has now been complete, but we're asking to carry forward $6,500 into the current year budget. And the other item is our comprehensive plan update line item, also with the Community Development Department, and that was primarily for our solar consultants for the solar project on the landfill that we're currently working on, and they've been working very hard, but it's come well into this fiscal year. And then there's a little bit extra also in there for zoning updates needed, and we've also been looking at an appraisal of a particular property and potentially a survey, and so we're asking to carry forward a total of $9,500 into this fiscal year, fiscal 18, $16,000 total.
Thank you. What's this council's pleasure?
I move that we approve the carry forward.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
The next item is the periodic report provided by Alan Klepper from the Bristol County Water Authority.
Motion to receive and file.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
A little feedback there. Huh? Any opposed? Sorry. Thank you.
Okay, the next are the individual council member agenda items, beginning with the chairman.
So what about that wind, ladies and gentlemen? My goodness. So Sunday night, I lost power. I know thousands lost power and hundreds of thousands lost power across the state. It was a difficult time. Some were out of power for quite a while. Obviously, the town doesn't control National Grid, but I wanted to take first a couple of points to say. First, nice job, Mr. Administrator. I saw you out there. I'll give you a side story that he laughed at me. We were watching them cut the tree on Hope Street. And if you saw the tree go down on Hope Street, it pulled the wires down, which was a largest part of the issue in town. But as they were cutting the trees, this was DOT cutting the tree, the wires started to spring up a little bit. And Steve kept saying to me, he said, watch out overhead. So I got a telephone call. He went across the street. They cut the wire, and it bounced so high. Well, apparently so did I. The administrator got a kick out of that, and actually Director McBride got a kick out of it too. And I heard about it for the next couple of days, so I can take a joke. But DPW did a phenomenal job. It was a mess, and it was cleaned up. The police department, I don't know where the chief is, but the police department did a phenomenal job. They had stop signs, portable stop signs. We had Hope Street manned by our department, and that's not our responsibility. That's supposed to be state. So hats off to the whole department, to the administrator, to DPW, to fire, to water pollution. I bumped into Jose, our sanitation, our sewer department director, And he was on the phone with National Grid trying to get power back for a couple of our stations that are, obviously everything runs on electricity. So nice job. And I prefaced it by saying I know a lot of people didn't have power for a while, and myself included, and it was challenging. But I got to tell you, we're so fortunate, not only for what happened from the town, but neighbors were particularly kind with helping, whether it was cleaning a branch out of the way or just offering a place to stay if you lost electricity. Halloween, again, hats off. The police department was everywhere, making sure that everyone was safe and the kids were safe, most importantly. I wanted to congratulate Junior Pee-wees. My son's on the East Bay Warriors, and they got to the playoffs. Now, they didn't get past the playoffs, but they got to the playoffs. It was phenomenal, and hats off to the whole team and the coaches. It's a lot of work to get there, and they should be proud, because I know I'm very proud of them. Veterans Day is coming up on Saturday. It's the opening of the Rhode Island Veterans Home. The public is welcome and encouraged to come. So if you haven't been there for Veterans Day, please come. It's going to be wonderful, and I'm certainly very inquisitive to see what it looks beautiful on the outside. I haven't been inside yet, so I'm really looking forward to that.
It's at 12:30.
Thank you. 12:30.
The ribbon cutting, yeah.
The ribbon cutting is at
program.
12:30. The public is welcome and encouraged to come. So please come and see that beautiful. Fernando Brum won the Man of the Year for Dom Luis Felipe, and we went there on Saturday and supported him. It was a wonderful event, and I'll take a side to say we're so fortunate, not only for Dom Luis Felipe's been here for 125 years, is the oldest Portuguese association in the United States. That's phenomenal. But it's a wonderful representation of how many community groups that we have that get together and celebrate their own heritage, or celebrate ideas, or celebrate, we were just talking about the East Bay Warriors. I mean, those are all volunteers. So we're so fortunate, and I think sometimes we forget, but it's important that we all remember how wonderful it is, and what makes Bristol Bristol is not just Portuguese, it's not just football, it's the library that we were talking about earlier and everything that goes with it. Believe it or not, Thanksgiving is on the 23rd, so happy Thanksgiving to everyone before our next council meeting. That's crazy.
Like 2 weeks from tomorrow, I think.
2 weeks from tomorrow, yes. That's crazy. I wanted to leave with solar. We talked about solar tonight. Councilman Stewart and I and Rep. Marshall met at the State House about 2 years ago to rekindle this solar project that is going on. We have executive session tonight to talk about what the town is working on landfill and some of the town buildings. I am bursting at the seams to tell you what I think is going to happen with this, but I can't, because we need to wait and do all of that negotiation. But I ask you to stay tuned, because I think I know it's going to be a wonderful thing for the town. It better be a wonderful thing for the town. Am I selling it too much? Okay, all right. All right. Well, I'll stop right there and tell you that I'm very much looking forward to it, not only because it's great for the environment, but it's great for our pockets, and it's our council, this council, administrators, and everyone actually sitting here's responsibility to find ways not to raise taxes, but raise revenues, and this is a wonderful way to do that. So, and I'll leave you on that. Good night, everyone.
Mr. Sweeney.
Well, I also echo your sentiments, Mr. Chairman. Town administrator and your departments did an excellent job, and particularly with communication. Well, I talked to a lot of residents, and because you use social media, it took their anxieties from here down to here. So thank you very much. You made our jobs a lot easier, trying to, say, we think it's coming, we're not sure. I would go right on Facebook, and I knew where we were. So thank you very much. Excellent job. Just before the storm hit, my niece flew in from Minnesota, and she got married here at Linda Place. She didn't grow up here. She grew up in Andover, Massachusetts. But because she loves the town, the charm, the historic feel of the town, she wanted to get married at Linda Place. So a lot of people came in from all various parts of the United States, and they came in. So it was great to see Bristol through their eyes, because they just love going around town, and we are just very, very blessed and lucky to have it. But we do need a hotel. We do need a hotel. So hopefully someday we can get that to happen, because, they wanted to have a bigger wedding, but it was just tough with the accommodations.
Your house wasn't big enough, Tim?
No. But long and the short of it, finally, I just wanted to wish everybody a happy Veterans Day, and to all the veterans out there, thank you. We appreciate everything you've done. Have a good night.
Mr. Tiska.
So, Mount Hope Huskies, congratulations to the boys and girls cross-country team that went to the state meet. Fantastic thing. Yeah, I think it may be the first time ever as a team. So it's a fantastic accomplishment for our regional school district. Also, just wanted to, again, thank all the veterans as we look towards this weekend to honor all of your service, but also I think acknowledge some of the commitments that are currently being made by our young people. My nephew came to the last council meeting and sat in the back. Kevin Danfelser, he's just signed the papers to enlist in the Army, and another good friend at the local VFW post 237, Marty Hoyt, his son Caleb Hoyt is now working towards enlisting in the Air Force. So there's I think a lot of we should all acknowledge some of the commitment that the young people are making to contribute to defend our freedoms. So, and with that, I would, if there's no objection, forego the rest of my prerogative for comments by former Councilman Harrisoff, if you'd like to say a few words while you're here.
Well, thank you very much, Andy, and thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here. I have to admit, when I first come in to visit you here, and the chairman asked for a vote, I have to restrain myself from voting. It's kind of a built-in habit. But I am very pleased at many of the new initiatives. I think that solar plan is great. We had a plan some years ago that fell through, and I don't think that was a very good company. But here, I think you've got a great chance, and that landfill should be used. I personally think solar is going to survive as an advantage to America longer than windmills. The nice thing about them is you don't have to climb up to fix them. There's nothing mechanical. If a solar cell goes bad, I think you just throw it away and put another one in. Just like it is when you fix your computer. You throw it away and bring another one in, and I think that's great. So I don't know the details of your plan, but I'm encouraged that it's going to happen, and I think that's just great. So it's a pleasure to be here, and I try not to bother you all, but I do bump into one or another counselor or the administrator from time to time, and I'm never reluctant to make a suggestion, but I do it in a spirit of trying to help, and I'll probably make some suggestions that are deemed a little off the wall, and you can deny them, which is also fine. But
we're big fans of saying in Bristol, in shipshape Bristol fashion. So that's become a new term. Well,
it's really what we want. I was just in England, and I heard that a number of times about Bristol, England, and we certainly exemplify that. So good on you all, and thank you for a chance to express my good wishes.
Thank you, Halsey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Perrell.
Well, a couple of things. So just on the storm issue, yeah, I agree. I had an early day, early morning. After several flickers, I actually had power. I didn't know I didn't have power until I talked to Nathan, who gave me an update about the tree across Hope Street. And I'm like, oh, I'm still at work. I think I don't have power then. He's like, no, you probably don't, Mary. So one of my questions that I just, I've been thinking about, like, I believe if I heard you correctly, if I remember correctly, you told me like 10 feet of the tree that had gone down was pretty much rotted out and hollow.
Yeah, when it fell over, the base of the tree was hollow. What would you say, about 10 feet up, Steve? It's approximately. Yeah. The tree circumference, I would guess, was the diameter. I'm sorry, it was probably 3 feet, maybe 3.5 feet. So it was a massive tree. Yeah.
I mean, I saw it like when I came back to town, which was maybe like 9, 10 o'clock. I guess here's my question: is there a way for us? Because the thing that came to mind when Nathan called me and told me about, like the update, was Hurricane Irene, which is a very similar circumstance for downtown Bristol, in that there was a big old tree that went down, took down a big transformer, and the businesses and the restaurants, they found out the hard way that they weren't covered for all of their losses and so forth. Is there a way that our tree person can is there a way to like tell if these are like that bad a shape, like some of the older trees, that if they're hollow, is there a way that they could, embark on that kind of mission? Do you know? Does anybody know? Can we find out?
I'm sure he could test it if he goes out and inspects it. He has some methods of inspection. But in that case, on Hope Street,
Right. I understand the situation.
he will inspect the tree, and then notify DOT. We've been really pressuring DOT. I had a list of 11 trees that I've been working on for a couple of months. They promised me by October 30th they would be down. I don't believe that tree was on the list. They're all, as we speak, they're all at least partially down, and I'm not congratulating them on their work until the stumps are ground. But it is a little bit of work to get DOT to be responsive to the trees on Hope Street. That's what I'm finding. We have, as I've been reporting at our previous council meetings, we're doing well with our in-town trees. We're using our DPW. They've been out every day since the storm. They've been out prior using our own bucket truck. But I will tell you, we are 2/3 of the way through the tree budget and 1/3 of the way through the year. So unfortunately, I've been working with the DPW director, with the union. We've had several meetings already, and if it wasn't for DPW taking on the additional responsibility of tree work, we wouldn't be as well off as we were at today.
Yeah, I think it's an important task and something
It
that
is.
we need to take. I mean, I understand the constraints and the problems on Hope Street with the state involvement, and I think we all love our tree canopy and the big old historic trees. But if that's the case, and we've had within about 5-6 years, we've had 2 major incidences with big trees coming down in that area, knocking out power for a considerable amount of time in some cases.
Mary, if I may, I think you're absolutely spot on. In fact, the Chief Canario and I had a conversation about it recently, and he reiterated, the administrators reiterated the need for us to be respectful and appreciative, as you said, of our tree canopy, but also being realistic with increased storm frequencies, increased storms themselves. That tree was down, and this is in zero reflection on local government or the police department, but that was down for 20 hours. That's just not okay. That's our main artery that was blocked off. That obviously we had a way around it, but that's everything relies on electricity. There were a lot of people, as you know, that have wells that were without power, so without water, and it's only getting worse. That doesn't mean we need to cut down all the trees. But that does mean that, as the administrator said, there were 11 of them are dead. Not kind of dead, not looking bad, dead.
Right.
So,
And especially to prioritize them, which I'm sure you're doing, I'm glad to hear that, as it is near major transformers or whatever. I mean, as I understand it, like they had to shut the grid down, a certain part of the town, just to be able to address that. Mm-hmm. And that's really where everybody, whoever had power, that wasn't knocked out from the wind directly, it was knocked out that day. So it was quite striking to come back. As I said, when I left, I had power. When I came home, I didn't. To see, just at Gooding Avenue, that break, because things had pretty much, I guess, come on, whatever had happened. So, like that morning I was in Barrington. I know things were down. I know there wasn't any school anywhere. And I do commend the police department for being at all the major intersections, for the, directing traffic on Hope Street. And I'm probably at Medicom too. I just happen to be on Hope. But I think something that we need to address, and it may be something that we just have to appropriate some extra money this year coming to be able to do this job and make that, then we can always help replace the trees. I know it's the state's responsibility, but, I think that we're going to get further if we take on some of it. I hate to say, but I know we are always reluctant to do that. That's my one issue. The other issue is, so the other day I ran into someone, it was a little late to put it on the agenda, who had just come from a training on Narcan, and asked me why, the police were not carrying it in Bristol. And I think at the training they made a point they commented that we were one of the only departments not doing it. Now, I know you have addressed this before, Chief, but I was wondering if you had either given it any more thought or if you would care to address it again, just because I did tell the constituent that I would bring it up in my prerogative because that was just the time frame of when I had seen her.
That's fine. Yes, as we stated earlier, and continuing to gather data here in our community. As we know, every community in the state is unique in its own way. We have, as the fire chief said, an outstanding EMS. We have paramedics. They're there at the same time we are. I don't have a case that I can tell you that if the police had it on them, it would have made a difference. We do have it for limited access. For an example, for exposure of a police officer, just in case if there isn't a rescue or anything in the building or whatever it may be. However, I'm telling you at this point, I still don't see the need to outfit every police officer with Narcan at this time. The time I see that it fits into the program, I'll be more than glad to. This isn't a decision I'm making myself. I've consulted with all the members of the department that are involved in this. I spoke to the fire chief. At this time, like I said to you, I just don't see where having an officer administer the Narcan when you have a paramedic who's trained with that stuff a lot more than we do to any type of reaction standing on the side of us. I think it's just something he or she will have on his belt, and I just can't tell you that I'm convinced that the police need to have it on their belt. The day it comes to that, I will be more than glad to train each and every officer to make sure that they have it. We have supervisors that do have access to it, but again, the paramedics are there. They're there on the scene just as quick as we are, if not quicker. This is something that, people that are having family members, friends, and everything, they can get Narcan and have it available to them because it's easier if they have it, if they felt that they really needed to have it in their home, and they can administer it as well as you, me, or any other person. That's where we stand right now. If you'd like, and whoever that individual is, if they don't mind, I would have no problem speaking to him or her, or have one of the officers speak to him.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Thank you for going over the rationale again. And I do think it's, it is also disturbing. I mean, the number of cases, it's just exploding, the whole issue of the overdoses, but also just being close, where police or EMS person can end up, having a similar reaction because they're involved with that person. It's really a bit, the whole thing is just very scary. I mean, the whole, we've fought so many wars on drugs, so to speak, but we're really probably in the worst situation that I could recall in my lifetime currently, and I think it's something that we all have to keep thinking about what we can do in our community. I know this, I know the HES is working on it, I know the police are working on it, everybody's working on things, but it's something that we have to, I think, keep in the forefront. Okay. And then finally, I just wanted to, again, I think we're all excited about seeing the new Veterans Home, and I also want to thank all of our veterans for the fact that we're able to sit here with free and fair elections and say our piece. That is because of our veterans. And then also to wish everyone a happy and safe Thanksgiving. So thank you.
Mr. Stewart.
So I know it's very frustrating, these incidents, very unfortunate that happened with Mother Nature. At the end of the day, I think what is important is the safety aspect, that all the residents are safe at the end of the day. I know we go without power, but we also come together as a community. So again, thank you, Mr. Administrator, but also thank all the departments, the police department, the Department of Public Works, and all the residents that, come to each other's, help if needed in the neighborhoods, because we have to get through it together. I wasn't chuckling, but I didn't know the story on Hope Street about that incident with the tree. Personally, I know firsthand, being a linesman 18 years ago when I first started on a broken pole, and it's very vital for safety to go home at the end of the day, and I commend all the linemen that leave their families day in and day out during storms, during the night, and the one thing that is a key is to go home to your family, and I was a victim of being on a site 18 years ago, 2 o'clock in the morning on a broken pole, and actually got hit with one of those cables that let go out of the woods.
I jumped over it. So
yeah, so I'm lucky to be here. So if it was just a foot up, I don't think it would be the same circumstance. But so I just want to touch base on the safety aspect. That as long as everyone's safe, and that brings my point to if we could. I know you are having an assessment with your departments and the after-storm assessment. If we can just have a briefing as a council of things that maybe we have to communicate with the utility companies or the state, and we can always do better. And I think assessment is good to go over with the council and our departments. Especially when the communication, I know social media is a key factor, and we had Quinta Gamlin open, which was a great asset, but I think a couple meetings ago I said about getting together for the outreach of our seniors to have oversight over those seniors, because in times like this is even more perilous of checking in, and that's why we reach out to the neighbors to check in on your seniors without power, but also communicate in town. I know our police department is on board. They do a great job, but maybe when we have those discussions, talk about, I know you need manpower, but communication with Franklin Court or even the public safety building up at Medicom. If we could have more sites and have a plan going forward where seniors can, have access of where they can reach out to, because we can't leave anyone behind. So I would appreciate that. And I thank everybody for their patience through this last storm. And also, we can't thank enough, I know I can't thank enough our veterans, whether it's a new home, whether it's, the freedoms, the sacrifice our veterans have done, and, our young children that are stepping up to serve our country, especially in today's global environment. We just commend them, and I look forward to celebrating Veterans Day with our veterans and their new home. Happy Thanksgiving to all the families out there. Thank you, Mike Davis, Sergeant Arms, Archie Martens, everyone who came out tonight, especially Councilman Herreshoff. It's good to see you. I thought maybe we were in trouble by you showing up tonight, but I'm glad we got off easy. And everybody tuning in at home. Have a good night.
Town Administrator, agenda items.
Thank you. You didn't get in trouble because I did already today. He came into the office and Hope Street was a mess, and I couldn't give him any excuses. Although we had a serious storm and we're still catching up. It's not an excuse, but it'll be ship-shape very shortly. Thank you to the police department and fire department for the hard work. I think we often forget that 24 hours a day they're out there. October 30th, that night, if you were listening to your police radio, they had a busy night. It wasn't because of the storm. It was an unusually busy night with some calls that they had, and then on top of it, they had the weather to contend with. So thank you, Chief. We worked with National Grid regularly, Director McBride and myself. I would say every half hour, maybe every 45 minutes. We were assigned a liaison. The information was getting to National Grid. They had the same information we had. They knew where the outages were. Could it have gone better as far as the restoration? Perhaps, if it was expected. But they were available to us, and we were providing the information to them. That's the best that we could do with National Grid. They only had so many crews for each community. It was a statewide event. We were communicating with them. In fact, we spoke again today. There was a follow-up conversation. A few of the points that Councilman Stewart brought up were reiterated. Veterans Day is going to be celebrated this Saturday at the Veterans Home. I'm looking forward to that. And I'd also, again, like to thank the police department. They had over a dozen policemen there this week helping the veterans move from Bristol, most of them on their own time. And I wasn't there, but I saw one of the pictures of the DPW custodian, Mike Nappy. He was also there helping out. He's assigned to the police department, so thank you, Chief. But other than that, happy Thanksgiving, and thank you to the veterans.
Could Can I just ask you one question, Steve? I know there are statewide lists. Do we have a local list of people that rely on life support, oxygen, things like that, that we know during storms?
Yeah, the fire department has that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know the police department early on in the storm, they did make periodic checks of the nursing homes, Franklin Court, Benjamin Church. But there were some lessons to be learned. Years ago, we did away with the civil defense system, and I had an older gentleman come into the office during the storm, and he said, "Whatever happened to the civil defense system? Years ago, you could make an audible announcement. Not everybody has the internet." So it was a point. There's some lessons learned in the after-action report. We'll have some of those. But one thing I am trying to get to the public is that in the event of an emergency or similar case, it's my goal to have the community center open. It was open 24 hours a day. It was staffed. There was food there. There's facilities there. And it's just good to know that there is a safe place to go, and we will staff it.
Is that fully generated?
Yeah, it's generated. Most town buildings now are under
automatic
accessory power.
Yeah.
Go to your nearby fire station, the police station. During the day, the town hall was open.
And I had mentioned to someone about that they were open. This was after the fact, and people were going in. I'd read people going in to charge their phones and things like that. And someone said, "Oh, I didn't even know that was a possibility that we could just go in." I was like, "Yeah, I think those are the kinds of things." And even if you use the phone thing, like those emergency calls, because if power's down, you're not going to get internet. That's the other issue. So, you may be able to work your computer on the battery backup, but you're not going to be able to get the internet. At least in my house, I didn't get it. But so I think we have to figure out other ways so people do know, how to, if they have their phone, I think that might be okay. But if they don't have those services, like some of our older people, when you talked about the people, I know it is important to check on, and I know you guys always do, the nursing homes at Benjamin Church, but also the people in their private homes. You also, okay, thank you.
And just one more thing, because I know we're going on a little, but if it's important that if you know what's going on, that don't keep it to yourself. So if you know that town hall is open, don't assume your neighbor does. You might be okay, but your neighbor would appreciate, maybe they, as Mary said, plugging in the cell phone to recharge it, which is just a nervousness down. So you're not worried about, oh my goodness, how am I going to contact somebody? So if you know it, tell 10 people. Tell your neighbor. Don't assume that everybody knows what's going on. Get out there, and because as the administrator and the chief said, fire department, police department, town buildings, we're all here to assist. That's what our job is, and we're happy to do it. So thank you.
At this time, request a motion to convene an executive session. There are 3 requested executive sessions on the agenda. The first, Director of Community Development Williamson, regarding request for executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42-46-5A5, lease of town property, solar project at landfill and on public buildings. Also, Town Administrator Contente, regarding request for executive session pursuant to RIGL 42-46-5A5, lease of real property, Russ Realty Company, Thames Street parking lot. Finally, Town Solicitor request for executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws 42-46-5A2, litigation, Les Brote and Deborah Leffingwell versus Town of Bristol, civil action number 2017-379.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Good night, everyone.